Hi there, I'm Rahul Neel Mani, Vice President, Editorial and Community Engagement with ISMG. In studio with me today is Ahirrao, who is the CEO and founder of Art and Privacy. And we'll be talking about the AI and its impact on privacy. Welcome to the studio, Samir. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. Good. How are you doing?
Great, Samir. So, tell me, with the growing dominance of AI and concerns for its responsible usage, will there soon be something called AI ethics by design? What would that mean?
Yeah. So just like I think we started with security by design, right? So it does help a lot when you actually start thinking about the governance, right? And here in terms of the AI governance, much better. So privacy by design, still a new concept, but I'm pretty sure the way AI is going faster, especially with what happened in November with the ChatGPT, it's gonna be a very important area. And earlier we catch that and from learning from security and then kind of privacy industry. Much better. So absolutely, should be the AI ethics by design, and I think European framework actually published the guideline on it. It's all about the respect for humans, fairness, then how do you deal with the bias, especially the transparency and privacy and data governance. So these are the important tenets of AI ethics by design.
Okay, so AI ethics involves some very complex issues such as bias and fairness that are more nuanced. Narrowly defined and task-oriented models have potential for big impact. How can this problem be tackled?
Yeah, so if you see, right, eventually, so I put that in the data is the most important part, I think. So I put that we had security, right? So data is at the center, right? We have a security. Eventually, you are doing something to secure the data. Then the privacy came as a second tenet. And now I think AI ethics, eventually if you see, it is based on the data, right? What data you actually train. It's a lot about training, right? What data you feed to those models or basically all those algorithms. And if that data is biased itself, it can have a large impact. I mean, if you see the systemic issues with the kind of training, if it's not, whether it's basically based on the color, what kind of geography you go with, what kind of color people versus the racial bias, eliminate those. So absolutely, there are like big impacts depending on how you train those models. And there is a big supply chain, right? What data you feed to those models, and I'm pretty sure we don't have. So the regulatory aspect is the whole different topic. I think you will cover in one of the questions.
Absolutely. So what you're pointing out towards is the role of data governance in responsible usage of AI, isn't that? And what if the data supply chain itself is compromised?
Yeah, so I'll take an example, right? Let's take the most popular example, ChatGPT. So ChatGPT feeds on the 5 data sources. Number one is web crawling, just like what we do Google, but just trained on that. Second is Wikipedia, right? Third is Reddit, right? Fourth is Books One, so it basically mucks up all the books, and Books Two, right? So data sources. So if you see the first 3 data sources, the crawling, it's all UGC, user-generated content, right?
Absolutely.
And that user-generated content has no kind of validation of that particular data. And if you feed data which is not validated, just like you see a lot of wrong answers, somebody's alive versus died, if you ask ChatGPT so many questions. So I think we have a lot to cover there, and it's all about what data you feed to it. I think it will get into eventually the enterprise segment, right? When you have the enterprise version of that. So I think data governance is a huge deal. Now, privacy in itself is so important, because when you handle the personal data and how you spit out those kind of outputs about PII or even personal data, whether it's geographic data, racial data, biometric data, genetic data, it's going to be huge. And I think there is a lot to be done there. We are at very early stage of it.
So,
in terms of usage, sorry.
What's the remedy to it? I mean, we are still addressing the challenge. We're still talking about the problem. What's the remedy to it?
And that's a good question, right? So I'll give an example. So have you launched a car, or auto industry is able to launch a car with knowing that its brakes might fail? So if you see the OpenAI and all the people, CEOs being saying that we don't know where this is going, right? But we still launch, right? This generative AI is basically all over the place. People are using it. So I think regulation is absolutely the first thing. But how can you regulate something which you don't know where it's heading overall? So I think it's a very complex issue, and that's why there was the whole movement around, hey, we need to stop this bandwagon for 6 months. Elon Musk and everybody was, but I think we need to get ahead of this, because I think it can have a lot of systemic risk, and especially to the human beings, sensitive areas like child privacy and of course individual privacy of all citizens. It's a serious issue before we go down too far.
Exactly. So proposed AI laws and acts across the world are also talking about something called regulatory sandboxes. The idea here is to develop, test, and validate an AI model before taking it to production. Now, aren't companies already doing it? If they are, why is AI still behaving in a weird way?
Yeah, so if you see, right, companies are doing, there are guidelines, there are no laws, right? GDPR does say, right, it comes under the automated decision making thing. So I think that's the most comprehensive law so far. So I think mostly those are guidelines. Most of the countries, first of all, not lines. Now, if you see all these big companies, right, who have resources, if you're talking about IBM, Microsoft, Google, FANG, whatever, they are trying to take really good steps to do that. But if you see the business model, right, of basically they're all into monetizing data, right? So it's a very difficult decision when you actually there are like commercial interest versus what you do for humanity. And again, what exactly, how can you regulate something where you don't even know the impact? I think that's, we got to understand it better and take those steps. So I would say there are guidelines, right? One solid example, actually, I was talking with some automobile executive, right? The things like Cruise and Waymo and basically the Teslas, that automotive car. So automotive industry has a very good car safety standards, right? So car crashing is a systemic risk.
Yeah.
So they are doing those AI models and taking those steps. But do we have that for generative AI? And unfortunately, answer is no.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So finally, I mean, there is a lot of harm caused to individuals' privacy and personal data with generative AI and ChatGPT. And how can organizations look at minimizing or curbing it?
Yeah, so I think the validation of the data, first of all, I think user education is a big deal in terms of that, hey, and I tell my kids, right, I mean, don't be a graduate of a YouTube university. Whatever is on the internet is not always true, right? And just take that impact 10 times, 10x when you ask ChatGPT, because it's aggregating all information and giving it to you in a smarter manner, but it may not be the truth. So I think user education is big deal. Regulation is super important, and especially creating the privacy aspects of it, that it's okay if it's a productivity part, right? You are basically writing an essay, but when you are actually dealing about somebody's information, right? Say for example, healthcare, right? You are making some decisions for somebody's medical health or anything. I think we need to be super careful about that, because there is directly a human harm. So I think human respect for privacy and also the life, the well-being, that has to be very seriously taken.
No, great talking to you, Samir. It was fabulous discussion.
Yeah, thanks.
So that was Samir Ahirrao, founder and CEO of Ardent Privacy, talking to us about the nuances of AI and privacy. My name is Rahul Neel Mani. I'm signing off for now. Thank you for watching us.